17 points, 12 assists, a plus 35 rating off the bench. After 200 days away from a competitive basketball court, that is not a return game, that is a statement. Here is what makes this performance so significant, and why the surface-level coverage is completely missing the real story. Clark did not start this game. The coaching staff placed Chelsea Gray in the opening lineup, framing it as a measured reintegration after an extended absence. And in the minutes Gray ran the offense, Team USA looked slow, predictable, and entirely scoutable. The moment Clark checked in, everything changed, immediately, measurably, and on camera for the entire basketball world to see. We are going to break down exactly what happened in this return game, why the starting lineup decision raises legitimate questions that nobody in the broadcast booth wants to answer directly, and what this performance signals for year 3 of the Clark era in women's basketball. Many of you have been tracking this situation and feeling like something was being left unsaid. You were right. Let's filter out the noise and get into what the tape actually shows. If this is the kind of breakdown you've been looking for, hit the like button right now. It tells us you want more of this analysis and helps us keep bringing it to you. Let's start with the box score, because the numbers tell a story that polished commentary is designed to soften. In restricted, off-the-bench minutes, Clark produced 17 points and 12 assists against a Senegalese defense that was more organized than the final score suggests. The plus 35 rating is the figure that should stop every analyst cold. A plus 35 impact means that while Clark was on the floor, Team USA outscored Senegal by 35 points. That is not efficiency. That is a complete restructuring of the offensive architecture in real time, and it happened in a game where she was not even given the opening assignment. The context adds weight to every number. This was Clark's first competitive action after more than 200 days off the court. No gradual warm-up, no visible adjustment period, no rust. She stepped into a live game and immediately began operating at an elite level, running pick-and-roll sets with Monique Billings, threading cross-court passes with velocity and precision, and completely reorienting how Team USA created looks at the rim. Now contrast that to the opening minutes without her. The ball slowed. Possessions became linear. The defense could telegraph where the action was heading. The very first possession of the game, before Clark had touched the floor, ended in a turnover. This is not a referendum on Chelsea Gray's career or her value to this program. Legacy and current on-court output are two separate conversations. Right now, the tape is telling us something that the coaching staff cannot continue to look past. The ripple effect of Clark's presence extended to every player sharing the court with her. Angel Reese, Paige Bueckers, Ryan Howard, each saw their offensive game elevate the moment Clark controlled the point of attack. Players who had struggled to generate quality looks were suddenly finding themselves with open shots at the rim and clean driving lanes. That is not coincidence. That is what a true offensive orchestrator does to the entire ecosystem around her. The Clark-Reese pick-and-roll read was on full display in this game, and it is structurally unguardable. Clark draws the defensive attention with her shooting range. Reese seals her defender and rolls hard, and the lob delivery arrives before the rotation can close. Layer Bueckers into that backcourt, and the defense faces an equation with no correct answer. Collapse on Clark's drives, and Bueckers executes the pull-up from the perimeter. Blitz Bueckers off the ball. And Clark relocates for the deep three. It is offensive basketball operating at a level of spatial complexity that creates losing choices for whoever is guarding it. The starting lineup decision does not exist in isolation. It connects to a much larger conversation, one that this return performance just made significantly harder to dismiss. Many of you have been connecting these dots for a while, and this return game forces the conversation back into the open. The 2024 Olympic Selection Committee chose not to include Caitlin Clark on the roster. The official justifications offered at the time: experience level, physicality concerns, roster fit, each carry less weight after what we just watched on the court against Senegal. The experience argument assumes the international game requires an adjustment period that Clark simply does not appear to need. The physicality concern does not account for a player delivering cross-court passes that arrive before defenses can rotate, regardless of the defensive caliber on the floor. The roster fit question becomes harder to answer when we just watched her make 5 different teammates dramatically more productive in a single game, off the bench, in her first competitive minutes in over 200 days. The selection committee had their reasoning, and those are their calls to make. But the performance in this return game adds a substantial data point to a conversation the women's basketball community has been having since that announcement. What she showed against Senegal reframes the question, not as a conspiracy, but as a legitimate basketball evaluation of what that 2024 roster could have looked like with a different construction. Drop your take in the comments right now. Should Clark have been on that 2024 Olympic roster? We are reading every response, and this is exactly the kind of question worth having openly. Here is what separates this return from a simple, great performance story. It functioned as a preview of what Year 3 actually looks like. Clark has spent an entire offseason building on 2 years of professional film experience and defensive adjustment. The version of Clark in this game is not the player who spent portions of her first season learning how to navigate aggressive ball pressure and physical defensive schemes. This is a player who already knows what the defense is going to run before the possession develops, and has built the counter. The pick-and-roll coverage she exploited in this game is the same coverage that gave her genuine difficulty in early Year 1. She reads it now at a processing speed that the opposition cannot match. The decisions she made about when to attack the basket, when to skip the ball to the corner, when to slow the pace and reset, each choice reflected an orchestration level that goes well beyond statistical production. It elevated the structural ceiling of everything Team USA was trying to do offensively. For franchises preparing for the next WNBA season, this performance is a direct message. Every team that did not specifically address Clark on their defensive scouting board this offseason is heading into a difficult situation. The window that existed in Year 1, when aggressive ball pressure and physical defense could disrupt her rhythm, has narrowed. The adjustments she has made are on tape for anyone willing to study it. Before we get to the final piece of this, if this level of analysis is why you keep coming back, consider joining the channel as a member. Your support is what makes it possible to keep going this deep on the stories that broadcast coverage skips past. The most significant element of this entire return game is not the stat line. It is the gap. The visible, measurable, immediately undeniable gap between what this offense produces when Clark is directing it and what it produces when she is sitting. That gap was on display for every analyst, every opponent, and every coaching staff watching the tape. The argument for starting Clark is no longer theoretical. It is supported by a +35 differential in a single game, evidence that the minutes being allocated elsewhere represent a direct and quantifiable cost to the team's operational ceiling. Year 3 is not a storyline waiting to develop. It is a mathematical reality that began materializing on the court the moment Clark checked in against Senegal. The opening statement of that argument was delivered clearly, efficiently, and without a single minute of warm-up time. If you want to keep tracking this story as it builds through the season, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next breakdown. We are going deep on whether the WNBA is structurally prepared to handle what Year 3 Clark looks like at full speed, and the early indicators are going to surprise you. See you there.